Was it the Navy that you were in
Yeah.
during the war?
Yeah.
How did you come to enlist?
Well, they were breathing down my back.
What year was it?
Draft board.
Oh, okay. What year was it?
Oh, 1940. Around 1940, I come out of, I think, high school. It'd be around 1940, 41.
You graduated from high school.
Yeah, high school, and I went to work for Duquesne Light. About a month. I graduated in June, and then about a month later, I went to work with the Duquesne Light down at Brunard Island. Not much down there now, but they had a couple power stations there. And then I was working there, and then it was just a matter of time I'd be drafted. So I figured, well, I'll pick what I want this way. So I picked the Navy, and we went to, where did we go to? Up in northern part of the state. It was where they sent us to be trained. And then after that, we went to get a ship, you know. Well, actually, it was up past Chicago. Where's the part of town is up that little town outside of Chicago? I forget the name of the dang thing. Where the heck is the name of that? Somebody big is from that little town, and it's right outside of Chicago. Somebody's got a pretty good reputation. And we spent about a month or so there because they didn't waste no time pushing you through. In fact, it was a hit-miss affair. They used to take you out of give you a shot. Well, always giving you a shot, so what the hell for? And it always seemed like the big guys are the guys that passed it out. Oh, it seemed like, I don't know what it was, but big guys just didn't like that needle. And they'd pass out. When they'd pass out, you were lined up, like you get lined up here to get ejected for flu and that. But we were lined up like that, and before you'd get to the guy, you'd be down the line. You have to yell, "Hey, medic, we got one on the floor!" And he'd come running down with his needle. While he's still laying on the floor, you give it to him. That was something.
And you never knew what the injections were? They never told you what they were?
They'd say, oh, it's a stimulant for a group of things, you know. Like, that's all they'd tell you. They wouldn't tell you what they're for. They figured it's none of your business. It's good. That's the only way I could place it. That was something. The Great Lakes. That was the Great Lakes up there. Was it Sandusky? Right outside of Chicago, and the Great Lakes there. Yeah, I think that's what it was, Sandusky. I forget who was from that little town. It's like one of the movie actors or singers or somebody was from that little town.
Where did you go after basic training?
After training. Well, I'll tell you, they gave me a test, an aptitude test. And out of that whole group, I couldn't believe it myself. They come in and called out 8 names. My name was one of them. I figured, I can't believe this. I can't believe this, because some of them kids were pretty sharp. And they moved me down to an outgoing barracks, and they turned around, and they started to get ready for the invasions. That's what the big rush was on for. And so your training was actually limited. I mean, it was just trying to keep you together and give you the shots every so often that they wanted in you, and then they'd pull the draft, and they'd start at the beginning of the alphabet, and they'd call so many names out, and then that would be it maybe for that day, maybe for a couple of days. And then the next thing you know, they'd have it again. Well, then they started to realize there's parts of the alphabet they weren't getting to. So then they'd start working from one end, then they'd start working from the other end. Well, I'm in the middle. So they keep going this, we're back and forth, back and forth. Finally somebody said, must have tipped them off and said, you better start working out of the middle for a while. Well, then that's when they finally caught me. They had to push on, like I said. I had actually been down in the outgoing unit with these smart kids. And so then they pulled us all out. That's it. Pull them all. And then they had a draft on so many, 10 go to this ship and 10 go to that ship. And then they had, that was the Great Lakes. Then up in New England, they have a training station up there too. So they were doing the same thing. So when we got together down in Norfolk, well, you had already been assigned the ship, you know, and you got down there, and then they put you in the barracks down there, and you waited. And if I remember the first night we woke up, all you could smell was oil. Here they had a German submarine hit an oil tanker right outside. In fact, the guy said, we couldn't believe we'd get a torpedo, because he said we were standing by to drop the anchor when we got it. Because there was a guy in the barracks in there, they put him in the barracks in there to clean him, so he could get cleaned up. And so, like I say, then finally our ship come in. It was out working with a short crew, like I say, a skeleton crew. So they I guess it took about 20 of us guys, 10 from each station, and put it on this ship and bring it up to full strength. The old World War I destroyer that they had made over. They'd bought it in. They gave a mess of them to the British, you know. They must have had a mess of them somewhere. So they gave them to the British, but I don't think they gave the British the best of the fleet, because they were going to do some themselves, you know. So they fixed it up, and it was an ideal setup, because warfare, the type of warfare we were going to have, you didn't need any big ship. And once you had that sound gear, once they perfected that sound gear, the German submarine was done. He was actually done. If he had any sense, he wouldn't have made any more. But he kept trying to get them out, and they just kept sinking them. Because once you get a sounding on them, it's just like a dog smelling a rabbit. Once he gets a smell of that rabbit, a rabbit runs 10 foot and stops, he knows he's there. The same thing. And then you just pull over them and drop depth charges on. It was goofy. He was goofy to resist. And if he tried to move, then they started perfecting different ways of fighting them. You had the regular depth charge. Then we had a 35-pound TNT charge. We'd fire like a rocket, fire out. You'd create a big circle like that, big circle, and that submarine would be in there somewhere. and then we'd listen, and we'd hear bing, bing, and they'd pick it up on the sound gear, on the screen, and you'd hear it was the making contact on a submarine, and the next thing you know, like he'd either try to make the service or make the service. He made the service by a lot of times they wanted to fight. Even when they made the service, wanted to try to break out their guns. Well, and that's why they started to use a baby carrier, and it had planes on it, and would be a baby carrier and 3 destroyers. They had I guess 3 or 4 of those baby carriers. So you had say 4 flotillas of that. They'd send to tell you here, go there. Then they started once in a while break the code. And they'd say, okay. And I know one night there, we must have run into where they were meeting. See, when they'd all sent us submarines out, they had made one big, had not made more than that, but they made a big submarine to supply them. It'd be like a freighter. And they'd come out and meet them at a specific point. Somehow they found out, and they found out where that point was a couple of times. But we went into them at night, all hell would break loose. And that's what they were meeting they called it the sea cow. Meeting the sea cow because he had their mail and their supplies, and he could probably give them oil, and that's the way they worked at. That was something.
Did your ship go to Europe?
Oh, we went all over. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. We started off with the North African invasion. We started that off. We run on that. We ran in with I think it was 3 or 4 tankers loaded with aviation gas, because out of Aruba, we picked them up in Aruba, and we come in there, and that was for the planes, because they were putting the invasion on, and there was an airfield handy to the Mediterranean, handy that we could get to. And maybe you didn't even have to go in the Mediterranean, because you could get to that field. And so that's what we first thing we did. We got in there, and I swear their spy system, our spy system worked pretty good. They knew just about what we were going to contend with. Then we made another trip. We came back and loaded up with ammunition, because Rommel and our guy, they were playing out there, trying to bombard one another and kill one another, and they'd push. Well, Rommel would push so far, and then they'd push so far. So we come in there with them. We were, after we got the initial, well, we come in every so often with ammunition for them. And you'd be surprised what you'd see floating around out there. Them little fishing boats, Spain and them way. I'd be scared to go out of sight of land. And they're out in the middle of that ocean fishing. No way. They were something. But that was what we did there. And we went in one time into the Mediterranean, and forget what the name of the place was. Anyhow, when we had the ship, when we had the ammunition and that, they would stop. They'd go in someplace right along the coast, because when we went in, you had a bank like this. What was the name of that little town? Right, you got in the Mediterranean. But I mean, it was up. It had a pair of steps going up like this, and then a pair of steps like that. Because that's what they send us, the destroyers and that on in there. But those big ships, they wanted to get trucks to them to unload them. They stayed. I guess the land must have sloped down eventually, and they could get to there and unload them and get them on a truck. When them trucks were coming through Algiers, when them trucks were coming through Algiers, don't you be out in the street, but he'll run over you. He's not stopping for nothing. I mean, nothing. And they were highballing. And those natives knew it, boy. They stayed away from that. We hadn't got off a ship for quite a while. We were in there. And the old man, the old captain said, he was a pretty good egg, this captain. A dang good egg, in fact. He says, yeah, he says, we're far enough away from everything. He said, we'll let 2/3 of the crew, we're going to be in there a couple days, see? And you divide it. The standing rule for the Navy was you were in a foreign port, only 1/3 of the crew goes ashore at a time. Well, we're only going to be there 2 days. We haven't been off that ship in I don't know how long. The old man, captain said, let two, he had 1/3 already the day before. Let 2/3 of them go. So we took 2/3. He was sorry he did. He was sorry he did. He did do it again. Oh, well, you made trips, different places sometimes. When we took the troops over, first took the troops over, we had one man of war for every troop ship. And we were loaded up. When we went in, and you were making little groups. We went in, and we were the last ones to come in. So we come in, then we had to go all the way up the coast, all the way up to Scotland. We went in, what do they call it? Scapa Flow or something like that there. It's a big inlet. You move into this inlet, and you go run on, and you get close to Glasgow. You can get this about, I guess, the outskirts of Glasgow. Well, that was, we got the last drop off. And then up there, you get up there, at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's either daylight, might be daylight just like now. I remember you'd wake, somebody would call you for a watch, when you first wake, or you went in maybe at night or early in the day, and you didn't realize it. And they'd call me. I know I got called for 4 o'clock watch, in the morning. I said, what's the matter? I said, couldn't you find me? And he said, no. He said, it's only 4 o'clock. It look like it is like here. I couldn't believe it. Well, yeah, we had a couple trips to Scotland. I remember one trip, Lum, he was one of our cooks, and we were there. We were shooting a bull. We were out, and we were anchored out in Scapa Flow. Scapa Flow is a big inlet, and here comes a little putt-putt up there. Oh, looked like a guy, an old man and his grandson, in a little, they're probably out fishing for their meal or something like that. And this slum called them, hey, you want something to eat? Ah, boy, their ears perked up. Oh, yeah. Told them, come on over, tie up alongside us. So they could come over, and it looked like, that's what it looked like. Him and his grandson. So what do you got down there? You got a pan or something? So he set a pan up. and Mom give him food what we were going to have. He was happy as hell. He was happy as hell. I wondered how many people were going to eat on that. That's what we forgot to ask them. So we asked him if it was enough, and he said, yeah. Then we didn't get in too much on the invasion into Europe. We were there, but we were far enough back. Why we were bringing supplies in right away, and they kept you back because you had those ships. You didn't want to be up front and let them sink them before you got them unloaded.
Where were you at the end of the war? Where were you at the end of the war?
At the end of the war, I was down at, I had the ideal setup. I was down in Key West, Florida. Down the Keys, they had taken the ship out of commission, stripped it down, all the guns off of it, stripped it down. They made it a target ship for torpedo airplanes. The war was still on, see, the war was still on. But they were starting to, already, they know the war was about over. And that's what we were doing. We were working with torpedo, working with the airfield down there. Well, I was up in Sampson, New York, is where I got discharged. And I just picked the train up, and they brought me in.
So when the war was over, were you done, or did you have to stay in the Navy for a time after?
It was over. It was completely over before I got out, yeah.
What did you do when you came home?
I went back to work. I loafed for about a week or two, that's all. I figured, the hell with this. I'll go back to work. So I went back to work. I was from Beachview. She was from right here.
Did you start dating in high school?
Yeah.
And did you write letters to her during the war?
Yeah.
And what happened when you came home?
I married her. Well, I still in service. I think it was the first leave I got.
So you married her during the war?
She worked for Reliance Life down on Fifth Avenue there, up in the building up in there. She worked there. Because when I come home, that's where I'd go. A lot of times I wouldn't tell her. We'd pull in New York. But if you get a leave, after things got settled down, at the beginning you couldn't get a leave. But after they got settled down and they knew what they had, more or less, we were getting more time like in port. But it was a good experience. Got to see a lot of the world.